have what is called evidence or grounds or simply data. These grounds are used to support the claim. This means that you should provide your reader with facts that what? Prove your arguments. The warrant, and I'm sure that you are here, you will not catch the link or understand what is meant by the warrant. So the warrant is a bridge. Of course, it explains why and how your data supports the claim. When it comes to the foundation or backend, or what is called backend, so this gives additional reasoning that may support the warrant. Now we'll talk about what is called the counterclaim, and this feature was not mentioned in the previous session. So what is called the counterclaim? So through the counterclaim, you can use it to negate the main points in your argument, so that you make the reader familiar with the opposing perspective. It means that you provide your idea and its opposing perspective, what is against the idea. In the rebuttal, this one, you incorporate your own evidence that disagrees with the counterclaims. And in here you are reinforcing your claim. And your claim is against what? The counterclaim. And this is also, and of course there is another theory, not only the Tolman theory, but there is the, of course there is the, what is called the Rogerian method, developed and not invented, developed and influenced by the American psychologist Carl Rogers, which is a popular method. And there is also the classical method of structuring the argument. And I want you to search how to structure methods according to, to structure arguments according to these methods, mainly the Rogerian method. Now we move on to our example. So to make it very clear, here there is an example. I took it from today's from today's events and what is happening. For example, I want to go out, and I'm going to say I really want to go out. So this is a claim that I developed, and this is of course an informal claim. If I want to turn it to formal one, I say it is necessary to go out. So, going out, I should provide what? Provide a reason to go out, especially in these circumstances. I can say, I need to buy some products to the house. So this is a reason for me to go out. Okay? That reason is not enough to reinforce my claim. I should what? Use evidence. Evidence. I will be careful when contacting people. So I'm going to reinforce my reason and given here views and generally evidence is supported by claims, claims and arguments of previous scholarship. And you can here give examples how doctors, of course, here convince or give pieces of advice to people how they should behave when they go out as evidence to reinforce your claim. So the warrant is, during the confinement, just one person can go out. So to reinforce my claim and my reason, and to prove my evidence, I can provide here a warrant to bridge the evidence with the reason, with, of course, my claim. I can say here that the authorities said that only one person should go out during the confinement to buy products, etc. So this is a simple example that I prepared for you to have an idea about how to prepare your argument. Your argument is built, sorry, on a claim. The claim is supported by reason, by evidence, and by a word, as you can see here. Now we move on to talk about what is called as synthesis or synthesizing sources, and its place in writing the literature review. So in writing the literature review, we what? Evaluate, we summarize, and we summarize through taking notes, and by the end we synthesize and integrate what we have synthesized in our style or writing. So according to many scholars in the field, like for example Pope all 2007, synthesizing the sources means bringing together separate elements from the individual studies or pieces of evidence and weaving them logically. So weaving them, it means that you are going to build, to build, to use tissue here to, for example, to make a carpet or to make a clothes, making clothes, for example. So here it is the same in building your synthesis. You're weaving, of course, the pieces of arguments of previous scholars logically together to produce what? A coherent whole in the form of an argument. Your argument as a writer, a theory, a conclusion. So this process is like using, let me give you another example, blocks to build a new structure, blocks to build a new house, for example, and this house belongs to you. Yes, it belongs to you based on blocks, on many materials that you have taken from different sources. And in here it is similar to building, of course, a house. And in here there are two main types of synthesis. We've got what is called the aggregative synthesis and the interpretive or the interpretative, of course, synthesis. So what is meant by the aggregative synthesis? So this type focuses on collecting and summarizing multiple studies in order to accumulate knowledge and look, of course, to generalize conclusions. So this form of synthesis, although it is used at times for traditional narrative reviews, writing narrative literature reviews, is mostly used for the synthesis of quantitative studies. And I mentioned last time here quantitative studies, qualitative studies, and the research, mixed methods research. And I hope that you have an idea about that. So what is called the interpretative synthesis? So this type brings existing studies together in a creative manner. For what? To develop new concepts, arguments, explanations, or theories. So what is the purpose of a synthesis? For what reason we synthesize? So we synthesize to draw conclusions about the findings in the literature so that you can identify how the literature addresses your research questions. So all these surround around your research question, your research problem. All what we have done is to find solutions for your research problem. So concerning the process of synthesis, so we have seen how to gather the literature or sources that addresses our main research questions, reviewing literature and taking notes through what? Through describing, summarizing, analyzing, and of course identifying key concepts. And finally, we have what? We have synthesizing literature through what? Through comparing and contrasting, critically evaluating, interpreting, so that you can draw conclusions. You are not going to base just on review literature and taking notes, summarizing, analyzing. And you are going to compare, contrast, as I said in previous sessions, and critically evaluate, and we have seen that. And of course, interpreting. For what reason? To draw conclusions by the end and finding a solution for your research problem. And the question that imposes itself in here, how can I synthesize or build my synthesis? So generally there is a technique called the synthesis matrix. This matrix, what? Is a chart, as you can see here, that allows a researcher for what? To sort and categorize the different arguments presented on an issue across the top of the chart, as you can see here. There are the sources, or mainly I'm going to explain that you provide the names of the scholars, and in here the main claim or the main argument. Then, of course, you provide what those scholars said about that argument, as you can see here. And I found it really workable to work with this. I took it from this this link and this title, and this title is title of a website. Let us check and give you an idea about the website. I know that you are calling me or you're providing your comments on Facebook. I'm going to answer all your inquiries. So in here, so this is the website. Write to literature. So in this website, I'm going to click here. And this is a library. I found it very important to work with it. So we've got here definition of synthesis, and we've got examples. So in the examples, I found this approach, and I found an approach, and I found here the example or what is called the synthesis matrix. Let us check here. What is it? Here. Here is it. So this diagram is taken from here. So you can find here all, you can find here even an example. I have here that. Is it? I'm going to send you this format. So here they provided how to here is it. So this is the matrix. The matrix template. I'm going to publish it on Facebook so that you can work with it. So this is the template where you can put your arguments, you can put the name of the authors, and you put their claims. Their claims there, which are going to be taken as evidence to support your work. I'm going to send it. I found it really workable in your data collection for to write your literature review. So let us return to, and here I'm going to, even for finding the, of course, the materials, the sources, whether they are secondary sources or primary sources that are there. So this is a library. Johns Hopkins, and here this is a library. This library gives you a set of books. You have to create an account, find media, databases, use Google for research, everything. You have to, very interesting library in this website, evaluating, how to evaluate. This is very interesting. They provide videos evaluating sources. For example, here, if we enter evaluating internet sources, they will give you here's some information about how to evaluate with links. Very interesting. Summarizing. Even in summarizing, you find here a template that can guide you, and this will let it for when we are going to paraphrase and summarize, to work with that. Let us return to synthesizing. We've got even how to integrate. They will give you a push on, they will help you on how to integrate your literature or what you have written in to write your literature here. So let us return to our PowerPoint presentation. So I took this sample from that website, and I have mentioned here acknowledge the source. I have also taken the example, and I'm sure that it is not apparent. I'm going to send you the link for the website and the template that I have taken from the website, that website. So we've got here an example. Our topic, I'm going to deal with women in the Second World War. So I read, and then I found that there are some scholars who talked about that. For example, Cornsel, we've got Stewart, we've got Brulé, and we've got Scott as authors. So the first claim is alteration of women's rules because of the Second World War. And the second argument is hardships and oppositions of that women faced during the Second World War. And we've got oppositions. World War didn't affect women. So this is the second argument. So, for example, for listeners, here women, he provided, for example, women could compete with men as equals in the sky because of their exemplary performance. So concerning the alteration of women's role because of the Second World War, he provided some claims. For Stewart also, he provided some claims. For example, needs of the war were so great that women's traditional social roles were ignored. Military women paid well for the time period and given benefits if they became pregnant. And the 1940s brought more opportunities for women than ever before. So concerning this argument, alteration of women's role because of World War, so we are going to support your argument with evidence from scholarship. So as you can see here, when it comes to hardships and oppositions that women faced during the Second World War, Scott didn't give any account for that, while for example, Brulé, women given and skilled labor position by government because only seen as temporary workers. Therefore, no reason to train them. And of course, here you've got even the page number. Concerning opposition, the opposition or what is called the counterclaim. The counterclaim here, for example, Cornless. So he didn't provide what a counterclaim or opposition about the issue or the argument. Second World War didn't affect women. Concerning Stewart, he provided an argument about that concerning the traditional roles of women during the war, but back to previous subservient roles after the war. Of course, women returned to their roles after the war. Here, there is another claim also or argument by Broley. Women were not affected because they still remained in subordinate position after the war, and this claim is in opposition or it is similar or supporting the claim of Steele, whereas Scott provided no claim concerning the opposition or the counter claim. So this is how you can here draw your table, put in your arguments that you are going to develop, and reading, then note taking will help you in selecting the appropriate evidence for your to build, of course, your claims and counterclaims. So now we are going to compare and contrast conflicting views. Of course, here comparing and contrasting are what important in writing your synthesis or providing your synthesis. So what is, of course, when here you make a comparison or you contrast authors or scholars or theories, you are going to take the following questions into account. What is the major goal of each theory or argument? What is the central claim of each theory or argument? Who are the scholars most associated with this argument or theory? What are the practical applications of the theory? What are the main points of criticism of the argument or the theory? So these questions should be taken into account in what? In using comparing and contrasting literature as a technique in synthesizing. So the literature review here, as you can see, providing what? Providing a critical stance in synthesizing. This is the second technique. So the literature reviews what? Aims to provide a critic rather than a mere summary of the readings you have chosen. So according to Douglas 2014, page 140, here he points out that just reporting these sources is acknowledged telling. So it is acknowledged telling. You are citing, acknowledging. So it is acknowledged telling. Whereas in your literature review, you want what? To attain knowledge transforming. And a new insight what through a critic of what of the reviewed texts. According to Iblo 1973, when writing a critic of your sources, you need what? You need to make a balance between doubts and what you are believing. So these are called believing and doubting phases, or phases. So in the believing phase or phase, sorry, you intentionally open yourself to the writer's point of views. And trying to understand the writer's claims, ideas from their perspectives. On the other hand, the doubting phase what entails adopting or skeptical and questioning stance and approaching the text how critically. Together, the two approaches allow you to review the literature, review and recognize complexities and multipliers within your topic. So we've got here two techniques, as you can see. We've got comparing and contrasting the literature, and we've got what? Adopting a critical stance in synthesizing. Adopting a critical stance in synthesizing not only through knowledge telling, but through knowledge transforming, and not only through believing phase, but doubting, including doubting phase. You are going to use both them, and you are going to use both knowledge telling and knowledge transforming. So we can say that the common strategies used in synthesizing are grouping the sources, comparing and contrasting the sources, and what? Exploring conflicting or contradictory findings and adopting what? A critical stance. So we hope here that you have an idea about the different parts of an argument, what is meant by synthesizing and its place in writing the literature review, the techniques used in synthesizing, and mainly I'm insisting on using this synthesis matrix that I'm going to send you or to publish on Facebook for the members. I'm going also to publish the website of that university. I really found it workable. You can visit and create your account for not only for here learning more about how to synthesize, how to integrate quotes, but even to create an account and get here references, whether they are secondary or primary sources. So here I'm going to here to prepare another video soon. See you and stay safe. Thank you very much.